Hello, and welcome to all you wonderful people out there trying to make the world a better place. Welcome to the Dead Man Walking Podcast. I am your host, Repeatedly Dead Fred, author of the soon to be released memoir, The Summer I Died 20 Times, which is actually what happened to me and how I got the name Repeatedly Dead Fred, because that's what I was. Today, I have the man, the myth, the legend, the man they call the Fleesh, Stephen Fleischer, who's going to talk to us about sales and how he's changing the world. Steve, thanks for coming on. Welcome.
Pleasure. Can't believe I'm finally here all these years and I finally made it. Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me, Fred.
Is this your first
Appreciate it.
podcast?
This is my first podcast that is being broadcast, I suppose. Yes, be the
Mm-hmm.
first one like that. It's not my first time doing a short video clip, but
Mm-hmm.
that's my first interview in a very long time. Not even an
Okay.
interview, whatever. It was my first chat on video.
Conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been in sales for a long, long time, and I love talking business and small business. And uh, so you've got an interesting career path, or at least I think it's an interesting career path. Do you want to share a little bit? I mean, you got run out of Montreal and you ended up in Toronto. Um, so why don't you take us back to wherever you think the appropriate beginning spot is? And
A good question. So a good place to really start for it to all make sense is when I came to Toronto. I was about 27 years old. I'm 47 now, just to give you an
Mhm,
idea. And before I came here, I got on the phone with a lot of mutual fund companies, and I do what I do, and I introduced myself to line managers at the mutual fund companies, and one of them was willing to go through an interviewing process with me remotely. Imagine that. I was doing that
mhm,
a long, long time ago and basically hit it off with somebody at the Sun Life mutual fund company at the time. It was called Spectrum Investments,
mhm,
and moved to Toronto, had a job lined up, and got myself into the mutual fund industry. And the mutual fund industry led me from one company to another to another.
mhm,
And eventually, I just fast forwarded to the critical point in my sales career, was working with Franklin Templeton and a gentleman named Enzo Baldessera, who is for sure one of my only mentors in my career,
mhm,
who taught me how to be a consultant. I was always a good sales guy and always had good conversations and met people and enjoyed the relationship part of
mhm,
prospecting and developing and maintaining relationships. But consulting was a whole different concept. I never really learned how to ask great questions purposefully and with meaning
mhm,
to find out what the needs were, from a client's perspective and what solutions I had in my arsenal to provide them and to solve their problems and help them, not necessarily problems, but enhance opportunities if you want to look at it in a positive way. So that really changed my game in my sales career. Um,
Isn't that quite amazing? Like you could go through so many years of being a successful salesperson,
mhm,
and nobody took the time to talk to you about doing a proper needs analysis.
Absolutely true.
It's
I
mind blowing.
never I never bumped into it. I like literally never bumped into it. Enzo and I knew each other for 2 years before I worked with him,
Hmm.
and we had a few associates in common, and they were planting the seeds. Steve, forget about just hitting them over the head with the sledgehammer and sell, sell, sell. What about
Hmm.
slowing it down and being
Yeah,
different than everybody else in the mutual fund industry and ask questions and make people feel that you're really listening to them and
yeah.
if there's a solution. Anyways, yeah. So it took a long time. That's 2004
Hmm.
in Toronto. So that took me through to 2008. And then after my stint in the mutual fund sector, I actually did a 180 to see if my consultative process, the more meaningful part of sales process, was portable. So I did what anybody would call a 180, and I went into online marketing for senior living communities, like
I don't know
180.
if that has a future. That
It did.
online stuff, it's not going to last.
Right, right. So I did that for 6 years. I noticed my technique and my consultative approach was applicable to probably, I assume there would be any industry if it went from the financial services industry to online senior living, and it was
Hmm.
successful. that's where I felt I got a passion for training and building out sales teams and whatnot. And I'm fast forwarding. My exit strategy was to have my own business, which was a consulting firm of my own, lone wolf, small shop, to go from company to company, small businesses, mostly referred to from people that I knew in my community, friends and family, and help small businesses that were, uh, let's say, under 10 million, usually above $1 million in revenue, pretty small
Mm-hmm.
businesses, help them increase their footprint and gain more traction and more customers or prospects, whatever the scenario was. And there, over a 5-year period, I worked in so many different industries. It was so
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I've always wanted to work in as many industries as possible, from dentistry to hearing solutions to
Mm-hmm.
law, family office to, I mean, a variety of industries. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a very interesting experience. And all those paths led me, I just fast forwarded 20 years, by the way. Not bad. I think I did it in
Mm-hmm.
under 5. Any quick questions before I get to how I got to
No, I mean,
my
it
current
doesn't
position?
look like you've fast forwarded 20 years. You look exactly the same as when we started the conversation.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'd look younger by the end of this conversation. I don't know.
Maybe
A few less gray hairs.
a little more
Um,
editing.
so then fast forward to sitting in a local restaurant, and I noticed a mentor of mine, more of a current mentor of mine, was eating breakfast with a peer, and I went over to say hi to the mentor, and yeah, he shook his hand and said, "How you doing?" Did the small talk, and look over to his peer, and he says, "You guys have to meet." And he takes my hand, takes the other guy's hand, puts our hands together.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-pandemic, of course. I don't know where people are holding on that, but anyways, it was, and he says, "You guys have to meet. You guys have to do business together." Da, 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 da. With this mentor, by the way, I had worked for him as a consultant to help his business as well in the
Mm-hmm.
insurance and investment field. And I asked the other gentleman, "Oh, what business are you in? What do you do?" He says, "I'm a recruiter for tax professionals."
Oh,
And
did you take a shower?
I made the face. I went, "Oh." Like literally, I was like, "No." He's sitting there like this, big smile. He's saying, "Ah, I love it that you made that face, Steve." He
Mm-hmm.
said that to me, and I loved it that he said he loved it. I just
Mm-hmm.
totally trashed what he does for a living without saying anything. I just made a noise,
Mm-hmm.
and that led to us meeting for I think it was Starbucks, and I
Mm-hmm.
got to know about his company like I normally would with anybody that is introduced to me from somebody that I already know. I love meeting with other entrepreneurs and business people
Mm-hmm.
or whoever it might be. And one thing led to another, and decided to work for his firm as a consultant again. He was another client of
Mm-hmm.
mine. And I learned very quickly. Actually, he proposed that I go on a business trip to Kansas City a week. That was a little bit later on. So yeah, Kansas City. And I went to a place called The Ranch. They call it The Ranch, where there's a training ground for the methodology of recruiting that he upholds by, that he holds by. A
Oh,
methodology of recruiting. I thought that is just like terrible salespeople doing a terrible job. I'm like,
yeah.
I'll go see what this training's all about. And it turns out very quickly, there's other people from around North America at this ranch, all over from the United States. I think I was the only Canadian there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all in different areas of quote unquote recruiting. I'm a tax specialist, and some of them were generalists, and some of them were focused on a specific niche area. And what I learned very quickly was that he was going to continue from my last mentorship, which was, let's rewind all the way back to 2004 with Enzo at Franklin Templeton,
Mm-hmm.
extremely consultative. And I was mind blown. And with my own small business for the previous 5 years or so, or 4 years, I don't know the exact number, I was very consultative. So I hadn't learned how to be more consultative since back then. I was just enhancing my own skill set
Mm-hmm.
until I went to this ranch. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, this guy's legendary. Like, he's already built the book and the process on everything I wanted my small business to become. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was thinking to myself. I said, this is a person I can learn from. This is a person I'm going to become better from. And I absorbed it. I was there for 2 or 3 days. I forget how long the conference was, but very well might have been the new change in my life. It was a really life-changing business opportunity in terms of learning all over again for the first time. And I brought that back to Toronto and got off the ground running. And since then, I learned that I'm actually not a recruiter. I'm changing
Hmm.
the game of recruiting because we're not doing it like everybody else. And yeah, you probably have a couple good questions at this point. That's the
Well,
summary of how I got to here, but I'll tell you more
so
about it.
was this ranch something that this new mentor created, or it was just a resource he was using?
It was a resource he was using. He discovered it a decade ago in terms of a
Hmm.
methodology that is different than the type of recruiting style he learned from. Like
Hmm.
he was also a gentleman who went through a recruiting background, found out about this methodology. Not sure how they met originally. He was the first prospect who went to the ranch, and then his
Hmm.
business was formed out of the successes that he discovered at that ranch as well.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
often people can go through a career and opportunities present themselves, and people just don't recognize them. Like one of my buddies that I did my MBA with, you ask him how he became like an SVP at where is he now? Um, it's one of the financial companies, part of the investors group. But and you just say, well, you've got to keep your eyes open for opportunities. But it's some people have that radar. You
Mhm.
have that radar. A lot of people don't. And where do you think your radar came from?
A great question. I'm thinking, and maybe I'm going to circle around the answer a little bit. I'm going to try to answer it.
Mhm.
In this particular case, it was for sure a function of realizing it's self-realization. It's just being self-aware
Mhm.
that I'm probably not an entrepreneur. I probably am not a person who has the strength to scale a small business.
Mhm.
I didn't I found that I didn't want to learn how to solve the problem of scaling my small business. I enjoyed
Mhm.
being the lone wolf until I did not want to continue being the lone wolf, going from client to client, getting clients come back to you every 2 years. They don't need me for a
Mhm.
few years at least. And I saw the cycle of I'm not going to scale this thing. I think I had a great time being working in many industries. People used to always say you can sell anything to anybody, and this is kind of a way to actually go do that. I think that it
Mhm.
was, but the awareness that I had that I probably would have a better enjoyment, just a more satisfying year, a satisfying, 2 years, 3 years, building a book of business for one awesome company. I thought that would be more my lane. It was just reviewing. I was at something
Mhm.
for a number of years, and I always would review. I guess that's the answer, is that I always do a review on where am I at. It's every 5 years approximately, and I've had
Mhm.
big changes after 5 6 years are were the biggest changes in my career.
Mhm.
And this one took me back to I want to put my head down. I hear it's rare for people to love the phone, to love dialing, to love calling
Mhm.
strangers. It's a unicorn supposedly, and
Yeah.
I've met a bunch in my field, but supposedly it's rare. So I'm like, if it's so rare, and I think I'm great at it, and I wanted to train people how to do it, and I was successful training other people how to be excellent business development managers, account managers, whatever you want to call that title. Um, why not put your head down and build a book of business again for the first time? That was
Mhm.
exciting to me this round.
Mhm.
I had to just find the right client. So I had a lot of clients, the right client at the right time, where I thought there was actually going to be a long-term future enjoying the buildup,
Mhm.
the complicated sales process, the nuances of a new language. Taxation for me was a brand new language,
Mhm.
more complex than I could have ever expected. But it
Oh,
was
for sure.
it's self-awareness, Fred. At the end of the day, I think it's the self-awareness comes from knowing when you've not peaked, but when you want to have a new adventure, when you want to have a new challenge. I guess
Mhm.
adventure is a more positive way of saying challenge, but uh, that's what I was looking for, like a new adventure to enhance my skill sets and wake up in the morning with a new path ahead. That's what it was. It was time. It's
So
time.
it's time.
Yeah.
So we'll call your new mentor, and I guess now boss, Enzo 2.0. So
His
you
name is
know,
A10. Great,
it,
great guy.
okay. So he also had to have that self awareness that he saw you in an opportunity as well. So how long did it take for you to go from you being a consultant
Hmm.
to him saying, you know what, let's bring you internal? Because I know that happens to a lot of small,
We were
solopreneur and
talking about
consultants.
it pretty quickly. I was a
Mm-hmm.
hundred. I guess another good um, fact to share is that not only do I believe in transparency, and I've always been an extremely transparent individual,
Mm-hmm.
to a fault sometimes, but I'm from
Mm-hmm.
Montreal. I don't know, people know people from Montreal. We're, out there. We're,
You
it could
overshare.
sometimes we're
Mm-hmm.
known to overshare, but at least we're telling you what we're thinking, as opposed to being guarded. There's a lot of folks that are guarded in North America.
Mm-hmm.
So I prefer not to be guarded. I prefer to be vulnerable. And Eitan showed me the same feelings. I take my risk. It seemed like he took his risk just in having open conversations about what do you want to do. Literally, I had two other clients at the same time as him. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to focus on his business because it was more interesting to me than the other two businesses for sure. Um, and he allowed me to use his office space to still service my other two customers at the same time.
Wow, that's pretty rare.
Transparent. So we had a schedule where I would just go to the other office, shut the door, pull up my personal computer, not his computer for his business, and get to business. He knew who my clients were. He knew what type of business it was. He knew that I was
Mm-hmm.
keeping fresh and like I wasn't just going to waste my time and build something else on the side. Um, but we were constantly from the very beginning, right after that ranch, I came back with a wow factor that
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to try to figure out how this could work out, and that's how it evolved.
So you've been with him how long now?
It's about 4 years, coming up
4
on four
years.
years. Yeah,
Wow, that's amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It's I'm a sticky type of guy. When I'm doing something I really like,
Mm-hmm.
and that I see the sky in terms of the limit of how much more I can learn and relationships that I can develop. It's pretty unbelievable. And I have evolved within the company as well in terms of the lane that I'm focused on. So
Mm-hmm. So why don't we switch gears a little bit to back to what you said. You're a phone guy. You like being on the phone. You're the phone-a-corn, I guess.
phone a
Uh,
corn. I haven't heard that one, Fred. I love it.
uh,
Phone a
so,
corn.
because I've had
Thank you.
Nicole Atias on the podcast a couple of times, who's a cold calling specialist. So you're in the same realm. Um, how about talking a little bit about where you're finding your prospects?
I'm in an extremely niche business.
Mm-hmm.
I am tax professionals only. So, and especially now with the division I helped my company Foxwood Tax Search go to market with,
Mm-hmm.
was to start a firm to firm division where we help tax professionals who are at a public accounting firm make a move to another public accounting firm if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So finding public accounting firms online is a very easy thing to do. Finding the names of the partners is a very even easier thing to do because it's spelled out. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
they show their face, they show their name, they show their email, they show their telephone number. You're welcome to call them. They're promoting people calling them, and you you want to be in my position where there's a value proposition and they would be interested at least to hear what I have to say about my network of tax professionals. So it just
Mm-hmm.
makes it a lot easier. It's a lot warmer than a cold call in this area.
Mm-hmm.
The cold part of it is that they've never heard my voice over the phone. They never heard my name before, so we don't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I speak tax. I sleep really well. I'm not a tax professional, but
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of the nuances. So I know the difference, and they appreciate that I do know the difference between a lot of the intricacies and the word nuance is the correct word of taxation. There's a lot of them. So for
Oh,
me to
for
know the
sure.
difference between the skill sets and what's going on, it does separate me right off the bat from many, many other recruiters. And plus, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
recruiting, Fred, which is what I mean by changing the game. I'm not recruiting. I meet tax professionals usually by referral. And when I meet them, I find out everything about them and what's going on and what's their pain point and the variance between where they're at now and where they want to be in their career. And if there's no pain and there's no need to move, then they're a happy home. I leave them alone. I'm not going to. I'm not like other people who would just, flog them with job descriptions that mean nothing to them because they don't want to move. So
Right.
I don't ever do that. I get to know a tax professional, and they always ask me the same thing, Fred. They say, "So what opportunities do you have?" Once they like me, of course, what
Mhm. And
I
who
don't have
wouldn't
any
like you?
wait, so 2 seconds. I don't have any opportunities. I
Hmm.
say, you, my friend, are the opportunity, literally. If
Hmm.
you want to go on an adventure with me, I'll take you to the market, to my network of partners across North America, and I'll connect the dots and make introductions and leave you at it. I don't work on a job description. I don't work on a job order. I don't work on a search for anybody. I don't recruit. I literally don't
Hmm.
recruit. They might think that I'm recruiting, but I'm really just getting to know them and trying to develop a beginning of a long-term relationship any way it goes. Non-transactional. Very
Hmm.
different.
Yeah. And it's great that you brought up the pain point because so many people in sales or business development just miss that subtlety. If you're not understanding what somebody's pain point is,
Hmm.
um, they have no reason to talk to you,
They
to
don't.
to invest in you. And it's a big miss. It's a really, really big miss.
Absolutely.
Um, I had somebody contact me on LinkedIn last week with, and I don't know about you, but when somebody just messages you off LinkedIn and the first thing they do is try and sell you something, it is, the most pointless thing ever.
And a lot of people are
And
doing that.
yeah, maybe they need to go to the ranch. I don't know,
Pour
but
some ranch on them.
yeah, for sure. So actually, Nicole and I are going to do a little session in the new year about cold calling on LinkedIn. But yeah, pain points. It's just, and some people just can't see them. Like either they're in the wrong industry for, what they're doing, and they don't understand the pain points of the industry, or they've just got a blind spot and they just don't,
I'll
have
teach
that.
everybody one of my tricks. I don't mind. I mean, that trick. I don't think it's such wise words, quite frankly. It's something that I care about. So when I do get a referral to another professional from somebody in my network, they say, you got to speak to Fred. He's great. Not sure if he's looking or not. I'm like, perfect. I want them to not be looking because my company
Mhm.
also, we don't post any jobs online, which is very different. So we're like,
Uh-huh.
we literally don't advertise any of it. So I prefer a person in my network to not need a job tomorrow. It's better if they're passively working with me to help them solve that variance between where they're at, the little
Mhm.
bit of pain, and the utopian opportunity on the other side. My job
Mhm.
is to find that variance. The way you do that at the beginning is the way I do it is get into a good introduction, tell them about how we came to the phone call, and then ask them, so, how did I catch you at a good time in your career? Why now?
Oh, I
And
love
then
that in your career.
in your career? Like, why now? Why is now a good time to be exploring the market? Well, Steve,
Mhm.
always interested in knowing what's going on out there. And of course, if there's more compensation, that'd be great for me also. No, let's get a little deeper, I say to them, because I'm not hearing pain. I'm hearing
Mhm.
interest in spending time and being amused. That's not a good spend of time. But what about this one? Make them think about it. So, Fred, what's the downside of sticking around?
Oh, what a brilliant question.
I just shut up. And then if they still have nothing for me, and this is in the first few minutes, you're meeting somebody on the phone or on a Zoom call or whatever the case might be. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there, and you call a spade, and you let them be happy and let them know that it's not every day I meet a happy person at their
Mhm.
job. It's great to hear that you're happy. Is everybody else happy like you there? Then I'm putting my consulting hat on.
Right.
So you want to know if they're the only one that's happy, then maybe I can do a little more digging around the office there, right? But if
Mhm.
everybody's happy, maybe I want them as my client. Think about it. That for
Okay.
me, in my world of public accounting, from firm to firm, this could be a very good client. If everybody's happy there, that's somewhere where I would want to maybe introduce somebody to a partner at that firm. So it gives
Uh-huh.
me a chance on both ends. So yeah, I really don't want to waste their time, and I really do care if I can solve a problem that they have, short term or
Cool.
long term. I might not be able to do it every very quickly every single time, but I definitely appreciate if they share with me and stay in touch with me. If things change in your career.
For sure. So if there is a wayward tax professional out there with who's experiencing a pain point or who is extremely happy right now, how would they get a hold of you and become part of your network?
You can look me up on LinkedIn. Steve Fleischer, Foxwood Tax Search, Steve Fleischer Toronto, Google me. My LinkedIn will come right up if you Google me. Yes, I've Googled myself. Who hasn't Googled himself in the
Mhm.
last 5 years?
You're such a
Uh,
narcissist.
well, they said on the radio the other day. Literally, I don't think I had Googled myself. I don't know if
Mhm.
I did or didn't, but because they said it on the radio, it was a percentage of people who have not Googled themselves. And I
Mhm.
think I was saying to myself, I don't think I've Googled myself. So I Googled right away just
Mhm.
to see what's going on.
Yeah, I occasionally Google myself to find out if podcasts I've been on have been posted.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but otherwise, I'm not that interesting, I don't think.
You're interesting. We've had some side talks.
Yeah. Okay.
This kind of reminds me of the side talks, but I'm doing more of the talking this time, so it's a little uncomfortable.
Oh, so this is a pain point for you.
I guess I'm figuring that out as I go.
Well, I think this has been a lot of fun. I think people are learning about an entire side of recruiting that they didn't know because, as we alluded to before, most people's reaction to a recruiter is not positive because, in my experience, most of them don't follow through.
Exactly.
You go for an interview and they don't even bother, telling you if you got the job or didn't get the job. They don't respond. So the whole culture of recruiting needs to change, and I don't think I'm the
We
first person to speak about that.
I think we're
So.
good. We're trying to actually do that, and hopefully every single firm follows in our suit. I really wouldn't mind having competition in the same area, quite
Mhm.
frankly. I mean, I'm not asking for it, but it would be just a breath of fresh air if it became more consultative and way less transactional, because that's the problem you've had. I didn't know these terms before, why I didn't like the recruiters. I didn't know anything about the industry actually. I never investigated it before. I just knew I didn't
Mhm.
want to be a part of it because of the feeling that I got that I was really just a cog in the wheel and just a transactional piece of the pie
Mhm.
overall. That is not how we intend to treat anybody overall. I think we get very high grades on making people feel like it's a long-term relationship, and it's not necessarily going to be that one process you go through with us. It could be that we don't help you find your next job at all. It could be that you
Mhm.
find your next career move, and then you need to build a tax team when you're there. And you remember us not being transactional. You tap us on the shoulder to give you assistance because you know our process and how we're going to go slowly and methodically to
Mhm.
solve problems and
And
provide.
professionally.
Yes,
So,
yes, exactly.
okay. So, Steve, we're coming close to the end of our time here.
Mhm.
Um, maybe that didn't sound so good. We're running out of time.
Especially for a guy named Repeatedly Dead Fred.
Yes.
We don't want our
So,
time to be ticking.
no. So this is the point where I ask a guest if they want to play the Dead Man Walking quiz.
Would love
And
to. What is that, Fred?
it's a quiz where I get you to pick a number from 1 to 36, and I ask you a very random question. And if you're comfortable answering, fine. If you want to pass, you can pick another number. So,
I'm going to pick number 18.
okay, let's see what we've got here.
That's that's random. Not
Yeah.
so random.
Do you aspire to be so successful that you're at the level where you can have frenemies?
Oh gosh, no.
Like a Paris Hilton.
Oh gosh, no. I do not want to be so successful that I have frenemies.
Mhm.
If I achieve some goals and I reach a successful level that I think is realistic,
Mhm.
I would want to keep it private as much as possible, quite frankly. I wouldn't want to have new friends.
Mhm.
I would want to respect my old friends always
Mhm.
and share more with my community. That's and my family, of course.
Mhm. And I think that fits with your natural makeup because you're friends with a lot of the people you grew up with still.
I
Like even though
happen
you've,
good point.
you know, it's 20 years out of the city and you're still in touch with a lot of them.
A lot of them regularly. We got
Hmm.
our football pools and we got our text message groups, our WhatsApp groups, everything for me, but Facebook, I don't know. It never worked. It was too much for me. I apologize to all the viewers and all the
Hmm.
listeners. I didn't want to be that social, even though I'm very,
Hmm.
very, very social other ways.
You're probably the most social person I know.
I love the people that I surround myself with. Frankly, it's
Hmm.
true. I'm lucky.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I'm going to wrap up here. Steve, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
And
inviting me, Fred.
to the audience, thank you all for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, drop a comment, look at Steve's website, give him a call, even if you don't have any immediate needs. You never know who he's got in his network or you have in your network, because that's how we all get ahead in life is building a network and being good to the people we're
Exactly.
connected to. So this is Repeatedly Dead Fred for the Dead Man Walking podcast. Signing off. Have a great week and hope to see you next episode.